is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering His Dark Materials, Book 3, The Amber Spyglass, Chapters 34, 35, and 36. There is now, Over the Hills and Far Away, and The Broken Arrow. In these chapters, Lyra and Will bone to save the world. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to say. I wasn't sure if it was just supposed to be that they made out or that they totally did it, but it's looking like they probably did it.
I feel like it's that they did it because of Father Gomez being like, I can tell from the scent of their bodies they're traveling into mortal sin.
Well,
but Father Gomez isn't the most reliable guy to talk to because he thinks that the Malefa using wheels is mortal sin. So
yeah, like I don't take that to be it, but the fact that whatever they did was substantial enough that they're now like glowing golden with their auras, I feel like it was a pretty big step. So I'm glad we didn't see it like in It.
Yeah,
Like
we don't need that.
That's the thing that happens in It, right?
Oh yeah, it sure is. And it's quite graphic and unnecessary and nobody likes it.
Yeah. I'm never going to be entirely comfortable with children fucking as a plot device, but at least it wasn't a thing that we saw.
Yeah, I feel like It is one of those things where I've only ever really seen like one person out of hundreds of comments defend it. So I don't think most people are really excited to have that be a part of things.
Well, I'm also just not excited to read that book because it's fucking 6 million pages long.
It is very long.
It's like as long as this entire series in one book.
Yeah, I gave it away, actually. I gave it to you to bring to, what do you call it?
Half price books.
But yeah, when it arrived in the mail, it was in a box. Because normally if I order a book secondhand on Amazon, I get it in an envelope, like a padded envelope. But it was in a box, and I remember getting it and being like, huh, that's weird. I don't remember what I ordered. And it was a pretty thick box. And I opened it and I was like, oh, right. This book, Jesus. Like,
yeah,
just did not even seem book shaped.
Yeah, it's one of those books that, sorry about that, that like defies binding.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and it was a 40-something hour-long audiobook also.
Yeah, which actually is about as long as one of the Lord of the Rings, A Song of Ice and Fire books.
Okay.
Which I've heard, I think it might be an urban legend, but I've heard that the reason why Feast for Crows and Dance with Dragons isn't one volume is partially because they couldn't bind it. Like, it would be too big to be actually printable.
Yeah, that feels like an urban legend, but also feels like it could be true.
Yeah. Or it sounds like, if nothing else, it sounds like it could be something that, like, a dismayed publisher would, like, use to try and convince George to fucking chop it in half already.
Yeah, right. Something there. Well, George, just go with it.
Well, and this is neither here nor there, but I have no place else on the network to talk about this.
Actually, before you do that, can we introduce ourselves? I'm Natasha.
I'm Owen, and I am sad because the audiobook narrator for Song of Ice and Fire passed away.
Yes, Ray Detrice.
And that legitimately kills a substantial portion of my interest in the next book. It really does.
Because the remainder is going to have to be narrated by somebody else.
It's going to have to be someone else. Like, he is like... That's a book that if you did not have a good narrator for, could be super boring. Mm-hmm. And he did a really, really good job. I know he's old and has quirks that can be off-putting, but I absolutely love
yeah,
that
he's
man.
like kind of controversial because you either... Roy Detrice, I've heard from you, is your favorite, and then there are other people who listen to the show who they hate his interpretation of everything. So,
well, Miles does, but Miles hates everything.
That's true. That's just empirically true.
Yeah, he hates everything but like sports and I don't know, something else.
When you say it like that, you just imagine a very different person than who Miles actually is.
Yeah, that's true. But he does like sports.
He likes sports and wrestling, and you just picture this like real meathead type.
Yeah, it's really weird But this isn't the Let's Talk About Miles show. This
No.
is the His Dark Materials show, and we have been absent for a long time.
Yeah, every episode starts with us talking about this.
Every time.
I wanted to let everybody know, even if you're not, I just wanted to put it out there on this feed because this is the other show I do with Owen, that Owen, because his schedule has been so erratic, we thought we could still make it work, but it just has not been happening. We're going to be continuing on Orphan Black with Maggie.
And we are canceling this show as of this episode. We're not going to do the
No
final
more.
2 chapters. No, we're going to finish
How
this
fucked
one
up
out.
would that be, though?
You were saying that. I was just like, it'd be really fun if we did that.
Or if we just pretended that we assured everybody that we were definitely coming back, but then we just never did. And there's only one episode left, guys. Why?
I feel like that's definitely a thing that happens to podcasts.
Oh, yeah, most certainly. I mean, I could definitely see every other podcast I've had has been pretty fucking consistent, but I can understand why pod fade happens. Totally.
Yeah. I mean, it has happened with my show, which may eventually come back, but I'm just very busy and very tired.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, guys. Like, it's a first world problem that I don't have the time and energy to do my podcasts. But this was fun to do. I've enjoyed a lot of the other ones that we've done.
Mm-hmm.
I love Orphan Black as a show, but like that show, for your scheduling purposes, needs to be go forward and be completed. I feel like Maggie has as much to say on that show as I do, if not more. Probably,
she's started
definitely
binging
more.
it already, and she's messaging me about it a lot, and it's fun.
And that doesn't mean I might not pop in on an episode or two, because it's a great show. And if you just listen to this one and you haven't gotten around to Orphan Black, check it out because it's great.
And the thing about Orphan Black is that it has such a complex plot that if you go away from it for a while, like we do with this, and come back to it, we have to rewatch the previous 2 episodes minimum to even remember where we were in the plot. So it really was just kind of not going to be feasible going forward. So I think this will be better.
I'm looking forward to binging it, like rewatching, because I'm sure you'll probably do that before you record with Maggie.
Yeah.
At least a little bit. And it's a very good show.
Okay, so just sorry, I'm watching you because I can see your mic moving, and I'm just hoping that isn't translating into
I'm not
noise.
even touching it.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's your knee banging the desk. A little peek behind the curtain here, folks. Sorry.
Yeah.
Owen has not yet used to all of the annoying shit that you can't do when you're podcasting because it shows up so much more loudly than you expect it to.
Yeah, I'm also just not a professional.
I've had some people, when I'm clicking around, looking things up, I've had people message me about, there's this really obnoxious click in the background, and it's my mouse. But it's I can't help that, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
I should get you a stealth mouse for Christmas.
It would be, there might be a way that you can change the, preferences on this where you tap it instead of clicking it, but anyway, so to get back to this, we have Mary who wakes up in the middle of the night. Well, I say wakes up. She couldn't sleep in the first place. She keeps on start doing that thing where you fall asleep but you feel like you're falling, which is the worst.
Yeah.
My mom always told me that whenever that started to happen, it meant that your spirit was leaving your body for a second and that you were about to go astral traveling. Yeah.
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 I'm
like
glad
you do.
I'm glad your mom hasn't said things like that to me, because all I would have to is just politely nod.
I think my mom has evolved a little bit more on some of that, and she would either not fully believe it the way that she had, or she would be more aware of how it sounded to somebody else. So if you laughed, I don't think she'd get mad at you, but it definitely is the kind of thing that I took for granted that was probably true until I was 19, way too long.
Yeah. Well, given my my background and my childhood, I am well versed in just politely nodding and not saying anything.
That's fair.
Instead of just being that's not how things work.
So Mary goes out she's planning on climbing the tree again to get up on that platform and take a look at everything that's going on.
Yep.
Because she can see the clouds swirling in this really particular direction that seems in direct opposition to where the dust is going.
Right.
And as she's coming towards the tree, it cracks and falls, which is pretty intense.
It's really weird because what she figures out later, what her theory is that the natural world is fighting against the dust leaving. Mm-hmm. But if it was like a matter of the wind, then you would think that other trees would fall and break, not the biggest one. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of weird.
I don't know. Like, is it supposed to be that the biggest one made the biggest, easiest target? And that's why, you know what I mean?
Maybe.
Because it kind of stood out from the rest. And so...
Yeah.
Or is it because it's the one that she put her platform in and dust, like, it's more affected by dust in the first place because she, like, her consciousness touched it?
That makes sense, I guess.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
Yeah, because it would make sense that, like, the bigger the tree, the more of the, like, plants that would get affected by dust. So maybe because it has the most attraction to dust?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
But yeah, as you said, it turns out that the clouds and everything is trying to, like, get in the way of dust to keep it from going down into this, like, endless pit. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to do anything. It's not going to affect the actual outcome. There's no holding back dust in that way.
Right.
But they're going to try. And as she's out there and, like, realizing all of this, she sees something out of the corner of her eye, and it's one of those white birds. And it's by itself, which immediately she thinks that maybe it's not one of those birds because that doesn't make sense. They're never by themselves. And as she keeps watching, she sees somebody get off its back. It's a person. And then realizes that he has a rifle and, like, starts to put two and two together and is trying to run back to catch him in time. But Will and Lyra are off sleeping under this tree. And they're out in the open, so if she shouts and wakes them up, they'll draw attention to themselves.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I was thinking that they were sleeping in her tent. And so when he goes into her tent and then just is like, what? And then leaves, I was very confused.
Why he didn't just pull the trigger right there.
Yeah, I was like... Because later on you find out that he's hesitant to kill Will. And I was just like, yeah, what happened there? But I must have missed the sentence. So they're under the tree, and that's why he doesn't find them.
Yeah, so he goes into her house, basically, her tent. And then it seems like he just doesn't see Will and Lyra. Like, he knows that they're here somewhere, but he doesn't get a look at them. And gets back on the bird to leave, apparently, to do reconnaissance later and watch for the two of them in the daylight.
Yeah. This was very tense.
Yeah, it was. What were you expecting anything here? Like, what did you think was going to happen?
I thought they were in the tent, which made it so much more tense because it was like, knowing that it felt almost like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like, knowing that they're in there and you can't stop them. All you can do is, like, try in vain to, like, run up there quick enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very tense. We missed the part because Mary makes the pieces fall together for her in her brain, and she figures out that what is causing dust to leave this world is there are holes that have been left
because of the knife.
Right. They said this has been happening for 300 years, and 300 years ago is when the knife was made. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't know if it's just like right as soon as they were made, like a bunch of people just running around with a knife opening holes, or
probably.
I wonder if it was like I don't know if this was actually the case or something that we, like, guessed at one point, but after that bomb went off, we thought that, like, that bomb just going off, like, fucked things up and, like, opened up random holes. And I wondered if the knife being created could have been a cause of that, maybe?
A cause of the bomb going off?
No, a cause of there being, like, a random hole in this random world.
Well, it sounds like what the conclusion she comes to is that the knife is, like... It's made a bunch of small leaks that have affected things and made the trees grow less and whatnot, but that this huge hole is a totally separate, different thing.
Right. Have we figured out what that is yet, though?
The big hole that was caused by the bomb that went off?
Oh, is that what this is now that she's talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because there was a hole to begin with that was making dust leave.
No.
Yeah, they said 300 years ago, the tree started dying because there was a hole. And
They said a hole specifically? Because they said 300 years ago the dust started to go away, and she figures out that
she got up in the tree and saw that, like, the dust was being drawn away.
That was after the bomb had gone off.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the whole thing, pun intended. Was like...
Okay.
It was just traveling horizontally, like, against the wind in a way that totally didn't make sense, and it was way more dramatic than...
Right. I thought that she had seen that, and then after the bomb happened, she saw that it had gotten, like, way worse.
Oh, no. I mean, it has gotten worse, but I think that it's, like, sort of... it's gotten worse in that I think once it got started, like, dust is attracted to itself, and so the torrent gets larger and larger the more time it has.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like something else changed. It's still the same huge abyss that what's his face and Mrs. Coulter fell into, Lord Asriel.
Right, that's from the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the same one.
Which it is looking more and more like, because I had speculated that maybe Metatron didn't, like, it kind of felt like a little bit of a cliffhanger when they all fell down. Like, maybe it could turn out that someone had survived that, but it's looking more and more like that's not the case.
Yeah, I could definitely, like, if it hadn't been so long since that seemed to have happened, maybe, but it does seem like it's just sort of left there, and so I guess that's just what happened, is that we just watched them die.
Yeah.
So finally he leaves, and she, like, the next morning, Lyra and Will are like, well, we're going to go out and look for our demons. And she's like, oh, okay, but hold on. And tells them how this guy was out wandering around looking for them in the middle of the night with a gun.
Right. She says maybe he was just like a random guy who fell through a door, like Will's dad, or no, Lyra says that. Mm-hmm. Mary is very convinced that this guy is looking for them, which is why it's really weird to me that she still lets them go.
I mean, I think that in some ways, I think the fact that he came at night probably to her is an indicator that that's when he plans to strike, and that he wouldn't come at them during the day, which isn't a like ironclad theory, but I feel like if I were in her shoes, I would assume that,
right.
You know, him coming initially in the evening under cover of darkness.
It's just weird that she, like, lets them go, or at the very least doesn't, like, try and insist on going with them.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not like she's, like, a military leader or something. She's, like, an ex-nun. So It's not like she's some, like, battle-hardened commando or something. But it was weird to me. Especially when it turns out that, yeah, he's totally, like, looking for them, because of course he is.
Well, and Will points out, too, that they have the knife with them. So if this guy starts to come at them, they can just jump into another world.
Right.
Which is true.
But he has a gun.
He has a gun, but, you know, it's not like I'm going to guess that their aim isn't, like, amazing in this era. He doesn't have, like, he's not a sniper.
We don't know that.
I guess we don't know that. I'm just assuming that. They have other technology that's pretty high tech, so I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
And she also makes them promise that they won't go in among the trees.
Which they totally ignore.
Which is exactly what they do.
Yeah, they're like a bunch of teenagers in Friday the 13th or something. They're
right.
Like, yeah, we're definitely going to go into the woods to do it.
And I love this very, like, carefully. Mary took some flat bread and cheese and some sweet, thirst-quenching red fruits, wrapped them in a cloth, and I'm just like, thirst-quenching? Nah. Thirst.
Oh, brother.
You get it?
Get out of here.
Like sex.
Also, I've never described any fruit as being thirst-quenching.
What about watermelon?
Like, maybe juicy. Yeah, I guess there's watermelon.
Yeah.
But I don't really think about that.
It's got water right in the name.
Yeah, well. Still, it's a weird adjective to use towards a fruit. Especially since this isn't a watermelon. This seems more like a plum or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Plums do sound good right now, though.
You like plums. I don't care for them.
I love them.
I think they're very bland, except for the skin.
They got that sour taste on the skin.
The skin is what I like. If the whole thing tasted like the skin, I'd be all about it. Right. But it's too...
You can just chew on that skin for a little bit, too. It's great.
It sounds really creepy.
We should stop. This is our problem. Our problem is that we do podcasts based on books and television when we should have a podcast where we talk about weird eating habits.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably like 50% of the podcasts out there, right, are just weird shit about food.
Yeah, apparently. I was listening to a podcast the other day where they were basically having the same conversation, and they were talking about like how that's a super easy, lazy idea for a podcast, and there's a million of them, which is
that's
not my
basically
experience.
what Complete Guide is about. At least,
No, it's not.
At least 50% of their episodes are about a specific type of food and the way each of them eats that food. They have sandwiches, they have soup, they have cereal, they have, what was the popcorn, bagels. They have episodes for freaking everything.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of varieties of food, so it is an easy thing.
I could talk forever about food, you know me.
We definitely could, and I can't imagine anyone wanting to listen to it. Like jelly beans, I like crunching on them so that hardened, sugary kind of shell comes off, and you kind of mash down on it until that's gone, and then you eat the gooey center. What do you think, guys? Write in. Let us know what you think about this kind of banter, and we'll get back to you.
Oh, God. Okay, so they go off and are finally successful in spotting their demons up in a tree.
Yeah.
And the way this is that they can see their demons like from the corner of their eye as little flickering shadows, but they can't quite like get a beam on them when they're get a bead. Is get a bead on them?
I think it's a bead, because I think it's a reference to aiming a gun. Because you get the little aiming thing that's called a bead.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I could be completely
until wrong. Like they can't look directly at them,
right? So they decide to play hard to get and just walk around being like, it's kind of like when your kid is hiding from you, and instead of like being like, no, come on, let's go, you like make a big show of being like, oh,
right?
What's an annoying kid name?
I'm coming up blank. There's so many, and I'm coming up blank. Probably something like Montana.
That just makes me think of what's her face?
Hannah Montana.
Yeah. Where's Montana? Oh, where is she under here? And then you look under something that clearly she's not under, like a park bench. Like you would know if she was under there. Get your head up. Get your head out of your ass, parents.
It makes me think of that Secret Garden movie that we just recently watched, when her face is covered by the turtleneck and the woman dressing her keeps pretending she doesn't know where she went. And then she pulls the turtleneck down. Oh, there you are, Miss Mary. I wondered where you'd gone. And Mary goes, what do you mean? You knew perfectly well where I was. So yeah, they wander around and are like, oh, maybe this bug is Pan. Oh no, I stepped on it. Why won't you talk to me, Pan? I'm sorry. Like, just weird pantomime, basically.
Yeah, and it's weird because, as we find out later, the reason that they can't get their animals back is because they're mad at them. Mm-hmm. And it's very understandable.
Yeah. Yeah, and you also find out later that like their animals, they're coming back every night to like nuzzle them and like care for them for a second.
Right.
And then but making sure to, holy shit, don't wake them up. We don't want them to know that we're not mad at them.
Right.
And yeah, so they are just kind of, playing this game. And initially, because they're trying to see them out of the corner of their eye, Father Gomez, who is following them, stays far back because it looks like they're suspicious and keeping an eye out for anybody on their tail. But then, as the day wears on and they start to play this game and feel more confident that the demons are going to come back to them, and as they get more and more wrapped up in one another, they start to like lose their awareness, and he is able to follow them a little bit more closely.
Yeah, this was also very tense.
Yes.
I don't feel like there's a lot of like minutia to dig into with these chapters, but they were really good. They were some of the most like intense, kind of gripping chapters that I've read.
Yeah, I think that this book benefits from being able to get rid of a lot of characters and really like laser focus toward the end, Towards the end, yeah. I was reading the Spark Notes on the chapters that we've read before this, and there was a lot of parts where I'm just like, oh yeah, that was in this book. Mm-hmm. Why did they waste their time on that? Like, all that stuff in the cave, with Lyra being in the cave, and then even with the weapon, the
bomb.
Okay.
Like, there's just a lot of parts where it's just like, oh yeah, Like, I barely even remember that. And then at the end, and now it feels like everything's wrapped up. But one thing that I do think that they benefit from is they set up Father Gomez in, like, chapter 3. Mm-hmm. And he's just been, like, slowly making his way towards them this whole time.
I mean, the bomb winds up being really important, though. So I'm not really sure what you mean about wasting their time on that.
I was thinking that there was a lot of chapters dedicated to setting up this weapon and how it was going to work. And we're dealing with the aftermath of it. But the, like, actual setup for, like, how it's powered and everything, I felt like...
Well, the bomb, that's not really how that went, because when... we only find out about the bomb when Mrs. Coulter first, like, steals the intention craft.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, we have this thing, and she overhears them talking about it. She tries to steal Lyra's hair sample that they stole back. And, like, that's all we know. But we don't know how it works at that point. And there's only, like, one chapter after that where she's, like, fighting somebody to try and keep Lyra's hair from going into the machine. But she fails.
Right.
But there's not that big a setup. Like, I don't know. You're making it sound like we hear about it, and then we see it, and then there's a threat of it hanging over us.
I more mean, like... Okay, so at the beginning of this, Mrs. Coulter's, like, in the cave, and then she goes to Lord Asriel, and then she escapes from Lord Asriel to go to the church, and all of this is to set up the bomb, and then she's, like, talks to the people at the church, and then she escapes from the church, and then she fights the people from the church, and then she does all of this only to end up back with Lord Asriel. That's more what I was thinking.
Okay, so it's not
I phrased
the bomb,
that poorly. I was just like, oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff. They spend a lot of time with Mrs. Coulter, and yet it still feels like her turn to be on Lyra's side and caring about her feels like it happened off screen.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, and again, I'm not meaning to complain about that because I've complained about it plenty. But that was more of what I was thinking of. But here at the end, where there's a lot more focus just on Lyra and Will, and you're not having to cut back and forth a lot more, I think kind of benefits. And now, like, Mary's stuff was interesting, but now that Mary's actually with Lyra and Will, it doesn't feel like a digression.
Yeah, definitely.
This book felt like one of the I can't remember which early season of Game of Thrones it was, where they had a lot of cutting back and forth.
Oh yeah, I think that was season 3.
I think it was 2.
But yeah, that was the season where recording on it was a fucking nightmare, and I started to be like, you know what, I'm just doing this in a different way.
Yeah.
So they find this stream, and I like this because I'm not sure, you know, there are times where I wonder, is this me reading into it, or is this intentional from the author? But they find this little stream, and they follow it, and there's like a spring at the head of it, and then it spreads out into this wider stream, and she says there's no more water going into it, so how is it bigger here? And he's like, well, it spreads out, and you know, and I felt like that was kind of supposed to be, because he says it's not coming out quite as like I'm trying to find the exact wording. There's a dog howling. I'm trying to find the spot. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, here it is. How does it do that, Lyra marveled. There's no more water coming into it from anywhere else, but there's so much more of it here than up there. And then Will points silently. It just goes slower. It doesn't flow as fast as the spring comes out, so it gathers in these pools. They've gone, and like, it feels like they're kind of describing growing up. You know, when you're a kid and everything is so compact and tight and high energy and just excitement, and then you start to like slow down and widen out and settle a little bit more as a person. Was how I kind of read that, especially because right after he says that, he says they've gone in there and points out their demons, which we know are about to settle their shape.
Okay. I was wondering why they were talking so much about the spring. I thought I was missing something.
I think that's it. It might be, you know, about love. But I don't like talking about love.
Yeah.
It's kind of lame, so I'm just going to not do that.
Yeah. They do, and I don't much like talking about love either, but I think they do a pretty good job at writing this, which is surprising because this isn't where I would expect Philip Pullman's expertise to be very strong. But I think he does a pretty good job at like describing the like nervousness and intensity of being young and doing, you know, for the first time and making your move and everything, and it being really intense. It made me feel like a blushing young boy again.
And Father Gomez is like thanking the Lord for sending him on this journey because he can tell that they're about to fall into sin.
Father Gomez is the fucking pits.
Yeah, he is. And
he's talking about this, and he's talking about how he doesn't know whether or not does he specifically say his reward in heaven would be better for what he does after this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just such a almost lazy critique of religious thinking where even when you're allegedly doing something selfless, you're doing it because you think you're getting a reward later. But in a way that feels really real and just so gross because he's like, maybe I should just stay here and teach the Mulefa that them using their wheels is sinful. Which, how does that even translate into your like bullshit church dogma? Like,
I think in his mind, it's they are supposed to obey their forms as God gave them, and using a tool like this
that's fucking
is like
stupid.
Yeah, it is quite stupid.
That's like saying that
he's carrying a gun. He doesn't get to talk about not using tools.
if God had meant for man to fly, would have given him wings.
So he puts his gun down so he can like kind of scurry forward and peer through the trees a little bit. And then he goes back to get it, and all of a sudden his heart practically stops because something has touched his demon. Surprise! Balthamos is back.
Yeah, I had forgotten about this, dude. I had been like, did he die in the battle? Because there was a lot of ghosts dying and stuff, and that's basically what he is.
True.
But no, he's here, and he's gonna... I thought he was gonna like fuck up Gomez, but it turns out he's pretty weak.
Yeah.
And has a real hard time of it, but we'll get to it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, so he holds Father Gomez's demon is a beetle, and she's chomping into Balthamos' hand.
Yeah, and it's fucking him up because he's super, super, super weak.
Yeah, and he manages to like lead Gomez away, and Gomez can't see him initially, so he's much more threatening until Gomez like starts to realize he's cottoning on to what's going on here. And then Balthamos starts to be like, oh fuck, because he could totally overpower me. He knows that, you know, he is an angel, and even if he were healthy, which he is not, he wouldn't really be a match for a person.
Right.
And which is just such a different take on angels than like anywhere else I've seen.
It's really interesting and cool.
And finally Gomez like starts to like lunge at Balthamos, but he expects because Balthamos has let go of his demon at that exact moment, so he gets this like surge of power and like feeling of well-being that like propels him further forward than he intended when he tries to lunge for Balthamos, and he expects more resistance from Balthamos's body than what he gets.
Right.
So he like goes pitching right through the angel into the spring, bashes his head on a rock.
Yeah.
And then Balthamos is like, okay, I guess this is how it's going to be.
And he just sits on his head.
He puts a foot on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And just lets him die. It's so cool. And the beetle is like scratching at him and stuff. But he manages to do it, and the beetle pops away, and so he knows he's dead. And then he's like, okay, I've done what I can do. I'm coming. What's his lover's name? Baruch.
Baruch, yeah.
He's like, I'm coming, Baruch. And he does, and it's very sweet. And I loved those two characters.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, it was like, there's not that many characters in this that I found to be super great. But the ones that were, I really liked. And I liked these two a lot, and I liked Mary a lot.
Agreed, yeah. Oh, and I also like that there's a moment where Father Gomez is like, we might be on the same side. You're an angel after all. And he's like, nah, bitch, we're not.
And he's like, I can take your confession. Even angels are allowed that.
Right.
And I'm just so glad that Father Gomez died.
Yeah, right.
And he didn't get to even hurt the kids. He died in a very inglorious way, and I just appreciated all of it. There's a lot of times in this series when they've I felt like carried through on something too long, and then the actual ending of it wasn't always satisfactory, but this was very satisfying, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I think it's, like you said, a combo of it being kind of inglorious, just being drowned in a brook.
Yeah.
The fact that an angel killed him when he thinks he's like working for God.
Yeah, it's all good stuff.
And the fact that the kids weren't forced to get violent. They are off able to just be loving each other, literally and figuratively, and they don't have to get their hands dirty with this at all.
Yeah. Father Gomez was drowned in a puddle by a gay angel while these two kids had premarital sex in the woods. It's the ultimate fuck you to this crow. And Father Gomez counts in that also. Father Gomez is a very effective character. He's a character you hate.
Oh, yeah.
But he's one of the most like compelling and disturbing characters. And I'm just so glad he died this way.
Yeah. And Balthamos gets to carry out the promise that he made to Baruch that he feels so guilty for kind of backing out of, and then disappears. And then Mary, who is asleep, gets woken up by her friend Atal, who comes over and is like, something is different, I can tell. And Mary comes out and she holds up the spyglass, and all of the dust is falling down again, the way that it's supposed to, into the flowers that have been waiting for it.
Right.
So, yeah.
See, this is odd because that hole is still open, though. So it's just from the kids doing it, and now it's attracted to them, which has...
Now, that's the question. I'm curious if something about this act of love is filling in that abyss.
Filling
Don't
all the
you
holes.
fucking dare. I hate you. I'm canceling the podcast.
All of them.
It's canceled.
Unspoiled.
It's done. It's canceled.
2013 to 2017.
But yeah, because there's something later where she's talking to the witch, and the witch says that the angels are filling.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that meant. I'm not sure if we're supposed to know or what, but I suspect since we both don't get it, that we're not supposed to know.
Now, I harped on this most memorably, maybe in the worst episode we've ever recorded, about how I don't like Serafina Pekkala because she just shows up, knows everything, is kind of, not snotty about it, but very kind of haughty about it, and doesn't always even explain things well. And that happens a little bit in this chapter.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because she's like, there is a dreadful and terrible secret. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to tell the demons. And you're not going to get to read about what I tell the demons. I'm just going to have told them. And you'll find out about it later.
Maybe.
And fuck you.
Yep. Yeah, so the demons, we have like a moment with them where they're going and seeing their people and petting them and being sweet to them, but doing it all in secret. Serafina shows up and she takes them to somewhere where they can talk. And they talk a little bit about how they're going to settle into their forms soon because they turn into birds to meet her up in a tree. And she's like, you're probably never going to fly again after this. Like, I think it's coming really quickly.
And they're like, what are we going to be? And she's going to be like, oh, I can't tell you that.
She's like, psh, you'll find out. I think that, honestly, she's afraid that it might influence them, which I could see.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, if she tells them that it might not be.
Yeah.
And she says, she tells them that Will and Lyra are like witches because they both walked away from their demons, which is something that witches do.
That's why witches can get away from their demons. And basically that's how Will and Lyra already are with their demons. They're not going to reattach in the way that they were. They've already reattached, but they can run away if they want to.
They don't need to reattach because
Right.
they're connected anyway.
Exactly.
But yeah, because the leaving them behind did not have the effect of cutting the way that the machine at Bull Vanguard did.
Right.
It's not the same. So the fact that they have done that, and I think it's Pantalaimon who's like, but aren't witches always women? And she's like, yeah, these two have changed a lot of things in a pretty big way.
Yeah.
Which I was a little salty about just because of Dune, pretty much.
Well, but this isn't all about how Will's the best.
No, it's not. But
Will has those elements to his character sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like they talk about in this, where Serafina was like, she remembered back to chapter 14 when she was asked whether or not she looked Will in the eye, and she said, "I didn't have the courage to.
I didn't dare." Yeah.
That sounds a little Dooney.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I just have some bitterness about General after reading it for the book club, and so that thing of just oh, he's changing things. I know it was the two of them. I know it's they're changing things, but I just got a little bit
Well, and also it's kind of a bad analogy because she's like, we witches have done this, and so they're basically witches now. They don't get to live forever or do magic or fly or anything, but their demons can run away fast, so they're pretty much witches now.
And she names Will's demon, which I think is real presumptuous, and I don't care for.
Yeah, I know. She's like, your name is Lickety Split.
Kirjava.
Yeah. And Kirjava's like, what does that mean? She's like, oh, I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, soon you will know what it means. And then she says...
I'm really looking forward to the new TV series that they're going to make. I hope they pick someone real smug. I just really hope that they ham it up in a way that I know that they won't, but I would just kind of love it if they just had this real... My tummy made a crazy noise right now. I'm so sorry.
I thought that was a machine outside or something.
It sounds like my chainsaw.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of an actress who would be good at having just giving a real smug
I mean, I think Eva Green could. She played not Ruta Scotti, Serafina Pekkala in the movie, and I thought she was great casting for that.
We've talked about this at length. Is that part of the main feed, or is that only for patrons? Because we did an episode on the movie.
I don't remember.
But, yeah, we spent... The entire episode was basically just us being like, why is this so bad? All the casting was so good.
Yeah, it was impeccable casting.
It should be a perfect movie, but it's not.
So then she says, listen carefully because I'm going to tell you what you should do. And Kirjava says, no. I can hear from your tone that you know what I'm going to say. And they both argue with her and insist that they don't want to. And she's like, you have to, but we never know what that is. And then she says,
I thought what she was getting at with that was just that they had to
split up.
Not split up, but go back. I know that they're already reattached, but they have to actually talk to Will and Lyra again and move past it. I'm so sorry about the...
I wonder if people can hear your tummy.
All right, sorry, guys. I guess you can. I'm very sorry.
We paused and went back, and it turns out you can totally hear it. So that's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so no, she clearly is talking about something other than them just going back to them.
Well, I thought she was talking about a thing that the demons had to tell Will and Lyra, some horrible secret.
Yeah, that's what I said, and we don't get to hear what that is.
Okay.
And they, go back and argue back and forth a little bit. And then finally she's like, well, it's up to you, but I think you know the right thing to do. And then she goes to talk to Mary. And the way that she does it is really interesting. She goes and sits by Mary while she's asleep and goes into Mary's dream and tells her, hey, when you wake up, I'm going to be right here. So just don't be scared. I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to talk to you, but I just don't want you to be scared when you wake up.
I kind of would have appreciated it if she had done that and then Mary had woken up and still freaked out.
Yeah, right? Because it just feels but...
Hey, don't freak out. When you wake up, there will be a strange person in your bedroom.
And when she's talking to Mary, she tells her, first of all, she tells the demons that the Egyptians are coming, that they are coming from the other world.
Right. And that she traveled with them, but she went on ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I like also that she's Mary wakes up and Mary's like, so why didn't you just tell me this in my dream? She's like, yeah, that doesn't really work very well. Talking in dreams is hard to control and even harder to remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that because you totally never remember the specifics of any kind of dream.
Yeah.
Unless it's a very rare case. And
I remember the specifics of dreams pretty well, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to believe it when I wake up either. So
yeah, I feel like that happens in lots of like movies and stuff where they're like, I will tell you in a dream. And then, they don't believe it because it's a fucking dream.
Yeah.
Fuck you for expecting me to believe a dream.
Yeah, that's the entire point of dreams, is that you're not supposed... They're dreams.
Yeah.
So, she says... She also tells Mary that her bird is an alpine chow? Chow?
She tells Mary that Mary's demon is an alpine chow.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up.
You said her bird. I thought you meant Serafina's bird. And Serafina's bird's not here.
Yeah, the description that she gives and the fact that Mary knows exactly what bird it is seems quite unlikely.
Yeah.
But I guess.
Maybe she's a bird enthusiast.
Maybe.
My Nana was a bird enthusiast. She knew a lot about birds. She would talk about the different kinds.
It's a bird of the crow family, breeds in the high mountains of Spain. Glossy black plumage, distinctive calls, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, I don't care about different types of birds.
I was just thinking that maybe there might be something about it that felt like Mary, but not really.
Yeah. Does it like hiking? Did that species of bird used to be a nun?
Like, no, I don't see anything particularly. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. This is us workshopping our third idea for a podcast, which is us just like skimming over Wikipedia articles talking about what we find.
So, and she tells her, with my eyes half closed, I can see him. If we had time, I could teach you to see him too, and to see the demons of others in your world. It's strange for us to think that you can't see them. And then she told Mary what she had said to the demons and what it meant. And the demons will have to tell them. I thought of waking them to tell them myself. I thought of telling you and giving you the responsibility. But I saw their demons and I knew that would be best.
And more mysterious.
Yeah, so what do you think this is?
I think it's going to be something kind of sad, like Lyra and Will aren't allowed to be together. Mm-hmm. Or they have to do one last like sacrifice thing, but I don't know what it is.
Okay. Because the thing that Mary says right after that is they're in love. And Serafina says, I know. And Mary replies, they've only just discovered it. Mary tried to take in all the implications of what Serafina had told her, but it was too hard.
Yeah, it's something bad.
And then she gets to show Serafina dust, which is kind of neat that this like all-knowing witch has never seen it before, so she gets to learn something, which is kind of rad. Mm-hmm. And let's see, I'm trying to find what the next...
Oh, and I did like that she was like, that Mary asks Serafina if she's ever seen dust. Serafina says no, and that witches didn't even know about dust until all this happened. Mm-hmm. And it's just refreshing to think that the witches don't know everything.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So
they know about a prophecy that Lyra is supposed to be Eve, but they don't know about dust, which is weird.
Yeah, true. She says all the history of human life has been a struggle between wisdom and stupidity. She and the rebel angels, the followers of wisdom, have always tried to open minds. The authority and his churches have always tried to keep them closed. She gave me many examples from my world, and for most of that time, wisdom has had to work in secret, whispering her words, moving like a spy through the humble places of the world while the courts and palaces are occupied by her enemies. And the struggle isn't over now, though the forces of the kingdom have met a setback. They'll regroup under a new commander and come back strongly, and we must be ready to resist. So, I guess.
Yeah,
it feels a little like self-congratulatory.
Yeah, thank you.
Know?
The followers of wisdom, it just sounds like the most douchey. There's probably like a million subreddits all about
Facebook pages.
What do you call it?
I got nothing.
Atheism.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It just like that is the one thing I'm dreading about this upcoming miniseries is that if it gets really popular, there's going to be a whole lot of really annoying atheists talking about how great it is.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think because I follow a page called The Friendly Atheist, and like the page itself is not bad, but the fucking comments are just so ridiculous.
The people who would follow such a page is the problem.
I don't have a problem with it.
I don't have. Yeah, well, I'm not saying everyone. It only takes so many annoying people.
Hashtag not all followers.
Well, I mean, like, I shit all over Reddit. There's plenty of nice, cool things to be found on Reddit. It's just I don't feel like wading through all of the gross, terrible people who are also there. Or like everyone fucking uses YouTube. People talk about YouTube like it's complete garbage because that's what you see in the comments. But everyone uses YouTube, and there's lots of cool stuff there.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
I saw somebody make a copper cast of an apple. It was awesome. Also, Serafina takes an arrow out that she had promised she was going to use to kill Mrs. Coulter and breaks it in half and is like, nope, bitch is dead already. Don't need to do it.
Well, and she's like, she redeemed herself in taking down Metatron, which just really served to, like, I keep talking about this, but it's brought up here that it's very abrupt and weird because she's like, oh yeah, I remember like last book when I saw Mrs. Coulter like torturing an angel,
right?
Or not an angel, a witch, and being like really terrible. But I guess she's good now, and I'm not going to do my thing. And it's just like highlighting a thing that was promised to be resolved, not promised, but like hinted at. Yeah, and then it's nothing. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't entirely agree with you on how abrupt that seems, but I think the point of the way Mrs. Coulter is written is that we're supposed to still think she's lying way after it turns out she's actually telling the truth, but we just don't believe her anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, he's kind of having us play the part of everybody else in her life who she's cried wolf too many fucking times, and now we just don't want to hear it anymore, you know? So I get what you mean, but I just don't 100% think that is the way it looked to you. You get me?
You don't think that's the way it looked to me?
I mean, I don't think the way it looked to you is how it was.
Okay.
Do you get me?
I think that that's also what he was going for, but I don't think that was done effectively because, like, there was never, like, ambiguity on it and being like, not knowing until the very end whether or not to trust her is interesting, but they just never gave you a reason for her turn, in my opinion.
I think they did, but we didn't believe her. Like, she talks to Will and in that cave, and in that conversation, she outlines very clearly how she had a change of heart while she was taking care of Lyra. But in that conversation, that episode, you did nothing but scream at Will about how fucking idiotic he was for listening to her. I think that was the moment where we were supposed to be hearing her, or the moment where she was just telling the truth and the audience wasn't supposed to be hearing her, but that was her beginning to like start to redeem herself. And as readers, we didn't really believe her about it. And maybe part of it is that Mrs. Coulter might not have known if she was telling the truth about it either, because I'm kind of thinking there's a character in The Leftovers who is, I don't want to, Mrs. Coulter is somewhat sociopathic and really selfish, and this character is not like that from The Leftovers, but she does have a motivation that as a viewer you can see, and she doesn't even seem to know that it's there, and is almost in denial about why she's doing the things that she's doing. And I think with Mrs. Coulter, there's an element of that, of her, like, when she's talking to Will, I think she's mostly telling the truth, but we've grown to distrust her so much that we're not hearing it. And I think sometimes she's telling people the truth, and yet while she's doing it, she is manipulating them so that it doesn't...
She never stopped being manipulative.
Well, but what I'm saying is, she knows she's manipulating them because she's so good at manipulation. She knows what she's doing, but it almost like prevents her from believing what's true about herself because she's using it as a tool so much of the time that she never gets to just sit with it and be like, this is actually true. She's so busy using her words and her feelings to like fuck with everybody around her that I'm not sure how much she knows that this is true until the very end either.
Well, and she even reflects upon that. She's just like, oh, it's weird how I suddenly started caring about my daughter just by being alone with her. I just don't feel like that was ever enough for me to believe that would change her.
Okay.
Because she was, like, she knew that Lyra was her daughter all along. Like, even before all of this. It was just her, like, actually caring for her in the cave while drugging her, like, still being terrible, that she grew to care about her enough to want to, like, sacrifice everything, including her own life. I just don't think that's enough justification, personally.
Okay.
But
so then Serafina flies away. Mary says that she's probably going to go home, you know, after all of this, even though she really likes it where she is and kind of doesn't want to leave. But I think she's just kind of, I can't stay here forever. I just know that that's not really.
Well, and I think everyone here knows that you literally can't, like, your soul will wither away and die if you try and do that. Which I really appreciate that Azrael's dead and his plan was stupid and everyone saw that.
Yeah.
Because there's so much about Azrael that it's just like, fuck yeah, atheism rules. I'm the devil.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing about this book series is that on the one hand, he's very much like anti-establishment, anti-organized religion, but he's also like, there are forces though. And you can't just pretend they're not there, because whether or not you acknowledge them or know about them, they exist and they are going to affect things. So you can be arrogant as you want, but you're still going to be as susceptible to them as anybody is.
Well, and just because you rebel against the like prevailing force of evil and control, that doesn't make you inherently the good guy or the greatest good. You're still selfish and self-indulgent and can be wrong about things, which is nice, and which is why I don't typically like, shitty atheism pages on Facebook.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's part of what I enjoy about The Leftovers also, is that there are people who are infuriatingly like faith-based and really frustrating to watch in that regard. And then there are people who are so nihilistic that you're just like, then just kill yourself then. Yeah. If you just really don't believe any of this matters at all and you're just going to sit there in silence and smoke yourself to death, then fucking just go. I don't like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then we end with Father Gomez's body being dragged back to a den by a lizard who eats him with her family, and the gun is left in the grass to rust away.
Which I was actually thinking the whole time, like, someone should go get that gun.
Yeah, I guess not.
But no one knows about it, because they're also just like, yeah, kids never even saw his body. He just laid there. But, like, Bartholomew's at least, like, kind of... like took his body out of the stream and cleaned him up a little bit and like set him, laying there. But yeah, a lizard dragged him away and ate him. Yep. And fuck that guy. And that's pretty good.
It is pretty good. Like, I like the fact that nothing between Lyra and Will is marred by Father Gomez.
Yeah.
Like they know he's out there, and I guess that's a little bit, but it's not like it could have been.
Well, and they never even worried about him. Like, they were told that he was out there, but they never took him seriously as a threat, and that never bit them in the ass, even though it kind of should have, in a way.
And what did you think about the deal with the fruit?
The way that they, like, do sexy fruit eatings?
Yes.
It's just so kid-like in the way that you make your first move that I thought it was really sweet.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it was an interesting because, like, in the Bible, the serpent tempts Eve and is like, you should eat this fruit. And I like the fact that in this, it's so passive. Mary just packs some fruit in a bag. Yeah. She doesn't put it into Lyra's hand. She isn't like, you should really try one of these. Mm-hmm. She's just like, here it is. If you want to have some, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's just part of your lunch. Like, I didn't even make that connection at first. And I'm glad I didn't, because it's a little cheesy. Mm-hmm. Just like, oh, the temptation of the fruit.
Yeah.
Which is, like, so much of my, like, annoyance with at least the particular sect of religious upbringing that I was with as a kid.
The literalists.
Yeah, Bible literalism. Like, that's, like, the dumbest fairy tale story that you believe it, like, that you take very seriously and think actually happened exactly as
I've told
written.
you, right, about the woman that when my dad first, it was the very first time he forced me to go to church with him, and they had a children's group. And I remember just sitting there, like, I almost laughed. I've done this a few times since then, where I don't realize somebody means it, and I laugh. Like, your grandma said something about, well, the end of the world is coming, and I just went, and, like, I thought she was, like, being hyperbolic on purpose. And then I realized that she was talking about a church like sermon, and I was like, oh shit. But I didn't mean to be like dismissive toward her. It just, I really genuinely didn't think she meant what she was saying.
Right.
But this woman was teaching the class, the children's group, about Adam and Eve. And she very firmly was like, and it wasn't an apple, it was grapes. In this like intense sort of, and I remember just being like...
And if you think for 1 second it was an apple or any other fruit, you're going straight to hell.
I remember just being like, who cares though? Like, even as a kid, and she made us draw it. And I drew grapes. I was just like, I guess, sure, here's grapes. I don't know. But like, it was just so weird.
That would have been such a good opportunity to fuck with that person though.
And
what is that? What is she holding? Oh, it's a cassette tape.
It's a plum.
It wasn't grapes. It was coconuts.
And I really like too that when she offers it to Will, it's Will knows what she's doing, because in the original Bible story, Adam gets tricked. He doesn't know what's going on. She hands him a piece of fruit without saying what it is to him, and he's just like, oh, yummy, and just takes it. And what?
Well, I'm not going to argue with you, but that's not how it was, at least in my tradition. Like, she's the one who told him to do it and that it would be fine, but he knew what it was.
Oh, okay.
At least in...
I guess it's like... Traditionally, it is seen that she corrupted him.
Oh, it's still her fault, and
yeah.
that's why women are terrible and don't get to do stuff. That's why women can't be presidents, is because fucking Eve gave Adam those grapes.
Well, and that's what, like, I really like the fact that he like recognizes what she's doing, and he's really excited about it and understands the signal that she's sending him, and like, there's no miscommunication about it. They both have full agency and are both fully in this. Mm-hmm. So. Just, it's a lot better. Just like it better. Who knew? Yeah. Who knew I'd like this fiction.
These kids.
This YA literature better than the Bible. But nobody saw that coming.
Yeah. So, we have 2 chapters left.
Yep.
And we will be done. This has taken us so very long.
Very long time.
I'm sorry, guys.
So, the Book of Dust is coming out.
Right.
There are some people who have asked if we will be covering that. Okay. Are you interested?
I might check it out on Audible and see if it has a good narrator.
Okay. Guys, if you read it and you think it's amazing, let me know.
Yeah.
Because it will take us a while to get through it, obviously.
I think, because is it narrative or is it like A World of Ice and Fire?
No idea.
My impression is that it's much more like A World of Ice and Fire, and I feel like that is way more suited to Philip Pullman's strengths as a writer.
I think it's also possibly way more suited to us covering it in one podcast.
Oh, yeah.
It might not be necessary to have an entire series about it.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a chapter by chapter thing, for sure.
But, we'll see what people think of it and the kind of narrative that it's set up as. Yeah. Anything you want to add?
As to this, no. You can, if you like Unspoiled and like video games, you can search out the Unspoiled Gamers Den. We have started that up, and it's a place where people can talk about video games or look for other Unspoiled fans to play games with. Myself and Brenton Harsh have actually started playing Halo through that. So we've got the Facebook page and a Discord set up where you can do voice chat, which is cool.
Yeah, well, you guys know where to find us. It's facebook.com/unspoiledpod, Twitter @unspoiledshow, Instagram @unspoiledpodcast. We got a couple of new people in the group who listen to this show, too. So that's cool. And I feel like there was another announcement I wanted to make. I think I just made it with Maggie. I'm not sure when we're going to pick Orphan Black back up. Probably we'll do it in the new year because she needs to have time to watch it all. She and I currently are both on tight schedules. We're going on our trip in like a month.
Yeah.
And then Christmas. So I expect that probably it'll be a while before Orphan Black gets picked up again. But once it does, it will be a steady weekly thing, unlike before.
Yeah.
So
that's something worth mentioning on here. If there are unspoiled fans who only listen to this show, we're having a meetup in Orlando, Florida at the end of November. What day are we actually meeting? We're meeting at Wizarding World of Harry Potter on the 29th.
Yeah, the 28th we're arriving. We're spending the day at the pool in the hotel and probably playing, like, doing bowling in their bowling alley, which looks rad.
Yeah.
And then we're going to spend the next day at Wizarding World of Harry Potter, which I'm fucking stoked about. And then the day after, we're going to spend our day in the rest of Universal Park. And the third day, we're thinking we will probably go to the water park, depending on the weather. But we bought like a buy 2 days, get 2 days free pass. So we'll have it for 4 days. So we're going to try and maybe go back to Wizarding World again the Saturday before we leave.
Okay, so 29th is Harry Potter. 30th is rest of Universal. That's where Simpsons World is, right?
Correct.
Yeah, if you want to see Rashawn and I super fucking excited about The Simpsons, that's when you should definitely try and be there. Because I think Rashawn and I like Simpsons at least as much as Harry Potter.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that's fair.
I am very much looking forward to all of that. I've never been to Universal at all. I've never been to Florida. So
like Wizarding World was less than half the size it is now when I went, and it was still the fucking best.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine what it's going to be like now. I'm going to lose my shit. And also, just so y'all know, I'm going to be taking a pause after the reread of Prisoner of Azkaban is done with Rashawn to cover Westworld.
Season 1, right?
That's the only season there is. Oh. Yeah. And we will cover Westworld. It's 10 episodes long. And then we will go back to the reread of Harry Potter, only it will be from then on patrons only. So that's a big change. But we really both felt pretty strongly that we have put out a lot for free. And if people really care about the rest of the reread, $1 a month is not a lot. So that's going to be what's going on with that. And at the end of this month, we're in, what's today, the 21st of October? 23rd? I don't even know. I've been so bad with the dates lately. It's the 22nd. The Stranger Things is coming back.
Oh, baby.
At the end of this month, or the end of this week. I'm going to have to binge it in like one day because I know Maggie is going to want to cover that shit like immediately.
Yeah.
Because she can't handle being the unspoiled one, guys. She's bad at it.
Yeah. If you guys have not listened to the Stranger Things podcast, they've done the first season, and it is the only show in which Maggie has been unspoiled. And I feel like as Unspoiled has gone on, we've kind of lost just a little bit of that impatience for the next thing. And I think it's baked into some shows more than others. But Maggie cannot handle being unspoiled.
Oh my God,
she gets
so
very
funny.
impatient. And it's very funny. Maggie's the sort of person who, if she can't watch it right when it comes out, she will go on Wikipedia and read the plot summary.
Yeah.
Because she's got to know.
And this, like, when we first covered it, it was bad enough. But we were covering it 3 episodes a week. So it was accelerated. And now it's going to be 1 a week. And she's going to kill me. I think she might literally kill me. She's going to have to be so careful about spoilers. Like,
You'll have it coming, though.
I'll have it coming?
If you get killed by Maggie.
Oh, that's fair. True.
Like, that's on you.
All right, everybody. Well, I hope that you guys have been enjoying the coverage. We're going to be reaching the end of this book, but definitely, like I said, get in touch about Book of Dust. And I think that's it. Leave a review. Yeah. Go to Patreon and become a patron. Patreon.com/unspoiled.
Did you check for new reviews?
I didn't check for new reviews. Hold on, let me pause this. Exactly my humor style, which is rare for me. I've already started the Unspoiled HP one and got a friend to listen as well. I can't wait to enjoy the rest of your content, Natasha. Never stop, never stopping. Edit. OMG, Owen, Haribo raspberries are my favorite candies in the entire world.
Oh, REPK in the USA, you are the best. We are now best friends.
Not including chocolates, since obvs that's its own category. So excited for y'all to finish the series and never ever watch that horrible movie, but hopefully watch the new series that's maybe coming out eventually, maybe.
We did watch that movie and it was real bad.
It was real bad.
Oh man, if the TV series ever comes on, maybe we could do at least.
I would be interested in covering it, but I just don't know how viable that will be.
I mean, if it's terrible, we could come on for like one episode and just being like, how did this happen to us again?
Right, yeah.
Because it is, like I said, the strength in the series is more on the ideas than the characters. So a miniseries could either like really elevate it if it was done really, really well, or, maybe, this doesn't need to be a live action thing.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of those things that I feel like when people talk about how great it would look, that's really the thing. It would just look really great, and it did look really great. It's beautiful, the movie. It's just nothing compelling about it, and the story doesn't feel like the story. But anyway, and the next one is Weeking from Denmark, 5 stars. Book club for all Pullman fans. Entertaining podcast where each chapter of the Dark Materials books are discussed. They go into lots of detail and offer perspectives on their favorite and least favorite plot twists and characters. Thank you guys for being the book club all Pullman fans need. So that's awesome. 2 really nice reviews. So thank you guys so much. Really appreciate that. 12 reviews on this one.
Hey,
which is more than I've got on a few of my shows.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. I really, really appreciate that. It's always nice to look and see that we've got a couple more people listening and whatnot.
I'm glad it's mostly been positive because I have been a little bit of a negative Nancy. Is that an expression?
Yeah, I think so.
In a couple of places, but yeah, most people have seemed to enjoy this, except for that one person who hates me. Which
you're gonna get that. Yeah,
I mean, they've got my face on their dartboard, and I mean, everyone needs that. Everyone
I can't stand him.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you again so much, and we will see you as soon as we can, I swear.
I mean, look, you've waited a long time between episodes.
As soon as we can.
The last one, okay?
The last 2 chapters.
Yeah.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.